Okay, so fantastic. We can start. So good morning. Good morning to all the participants and to all the distinguished panelists that we have as this session today. This is the session on the industry track, and we are going to discuss with a number of representatives from different actors along the value chain how UNIDO is working to make more circular value chain a reality in this SwitchMed initiative. Now, let me start by giving the word to introduce UNIDO role and the SwitchMed region of the Textile Circular Initiative to Ms. Carolina Gonzalez, that is the project manager of SwitchMed at UNIDO.
Good morning. Thank you, Roberta. I will share my screen for a couple of slides. Can you see? Wonderful. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning and to introduce this session on building circular textile value chains and the work being done by UNIDO together with its partners for building sustainable business models with brands and local suppliers. So I would just like to give a brief introduction to frame the discussion we'll be having this morning. I will be brief so that we can get to the heart of the discussion and hear from our partners and from different experts about the experience and lessons learned so far. But just so you can have an overview of the work being done by SwitchMed to promote circular value chains in the textile sector in the southern Mediterranean region. We are working in the textile sector in Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia. And we have two priority areas of intervention. The first is developing national capacities for localizing value chains to valorize pre-consumer textile for proper classification, efficient collection, sorting, recycling, and circular business models aligned to global market needs. So that is the first component. And then the second one is supporting industry to build responsible chemical management in line with their needs and the requirements of international brands. And this is being done in partnership with CDHC, the Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemicals Foundation. So just to enter in a bit more detail, how is that being done? In the first area, we have already done the textile waste mapping, an assessment of recycling businesses, landscapes, and regulatory framework in each country, and the generation of recycling business models. This base work has helped lead us to the definition of pilot projects and also contributes to the roadmap to local recycling value chains. In 2021, we completed one pilot together with Nudie Jeans in Tunisia. And we are currently starting two pilot projects, two in Morocco and two in Tunisia. And I would like to highlight there our collaboration with OTB in Tunisia. Also in Egypt, we are about to start, and we expect that to start in 2022, so rather soon. And there we are, we'll be collaborating with PVH. In addition to these partners, we are also working together with companies, local companies along the supply chain, local beneficiaries such as spinning companies, waste recycling, garment producers, etc. And all of this, the idea is to help facilitate a partnership. UNIDO has an important role here to bring together all of these partners and help bring this, bridge this connection along the circular value chain. So that is our first area of work. The second one has a focus on hazardous chemicals, and we are working with CDHC. We have so far conducted awareness raising on safer chemical protocols, capacity building of local service providers, training and pilot projects, and share results and best practices, leading to a national roadmap for safer chemicals. So basically here, once our local partners have gone through these trainings and built this roadmap, they are ready to be registered with ZDHC for the appropriate protocols on hazardous chemicals.
Where the project is providing different services. Now, as Karina was mentioning, one of the two areas of intervention is focusing on recycling of post-industrial and pre-consumer textile waste for establishing and supporting in the different countries the creation of completely localized value chains for the valorization of this waste. We are talking about a large amount of waste that comes from the garment producers, both in terms of cutting waste and also second quality or dead stock or overproduction stocks. And we are talking about a really significant amount of waste that that currently is not properly valorized, if not at all. So let me now introduce Marco Ricchetti from Blue Mine. He's the CEO of Blue Mine. He's representing this company that is a network of professionals and researchers that are committed to a mission of creating value in the fashion and design supply chains, applying the best sustainability standard. So Blue Mine has been awarded the contract under the SwitchMed Textile initiative, specifically to look into the textile waste, and the first activity that they have done together with UNIDO is the mapping of the waste. So, Marco, can you give us an overview of the findings of the mapping of waste that was conducted in Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, and also navigate us through what kind of opportunity and potential business model for valorizing textile waste you have identified in this region? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberta. So let me share the screen. Hope you can see the screen. What I would like to do today, what I would like to present is some more detail with some figures about the activity that has been already concluded, and to give you some overview about the model for the pilots we have been designing during this first part of the project. I have to say that all the analysis and the elaborations and the thinking about these topics has been made by ourselves at Blue Mine in strict cooperation with our partners of Reverse Resources, that are a company specialized in managing and trading textile waste. So the result is the outcome of a common effort, a shared effort. Well, as Carolina said, there are our component had a couple of specific objectives. First was to demonstrating that investments in increasing the value of waste to recycling in these three countries is a good economic opportunity. So it is good for the environment, but also good for the business. And the second objective we had was to spread the word, to increase the awareness about the potential economic benefits that can come from a better recycling value chain in these countries. Let me just show what already Carolina has illustrated. That I will go very quickly a bit more in depth in all these the stages you see there. The first step, as Roberta said, was to provide to the team, to the UNIDO, and also to local stakeholders to provide the good figure, the right figures about what is actually the size of these, let's say, mine of new resources, because this type of exercise was not done in these 3 countries, with some smaller exception that was quite limited. So the first step was to know the landscape, to understand better the landscape in terms of what kind of fiber, where are they located in the country, etc. The second step has been to make an assessment of the existing value chain for recycling in the countries, and understanding where the waste goes now, and where it could go to improve the value, comparing with the best experiences in Europe and in other countries also out of Europe. Then the third step was designing to understanding what can be the business model for recycling that are well suited for these countries, not in general, but that follow the typical situation in terms of legislations and type of waste available in the countries. And then we have these 2 parts, the 2 last part. One is the design of the pilot project, and that has been made and actually is still ongoing in the making for Egypt, and the definition of a roadmap for the improvement of the local recycling value chain, which is our last step that will be closed before the end of the year. I have to say that actually the pilot part has had an anticipation, let's say. We made some sort of a pre-pilot just to understand what can be the difficulties in the countries, and it is the one made in Tunisia with Nudie Jeans, the Denim Authority, and CITEX. The Denim Authority and CITEX are 2 local companies, but I think that Elina later will explain you better what is the objectives and the results of this pilot that is more or less closed. There has been actually a good commitment by brands. Commitments are of different level. In some cases, they just contributed with the information, opinions, etc. In other cases, as Carolina said, for example, with OTB, Nudie Jeans, and PVH, they are having now a very active participation in the project. As far as the local actors are involved, our waste mapping survey has involved a pretty high number of companies, more or less 140 companies in the 3 countries. That's plus these are the textile companies involved. Plus, we also surveyed and had meetings and discussions with waste handlers and recyclers in all the 3 countries. The selection and the contact with the companies are being facilitated by local stakeholders. You see, I won't go to all the list, but you see all the organization and local federation that have helped us to reach this goal, and I take advantage of this situation for thanking all of them about their, let's say, valuable contribution to the project. So I said that the first activity was to understand exactly how much waste is generated, and in order to do so, we had to create from scratch. There was no previous available structural information, an analysis of the flow of textile materials along all the local supply chains, from the import of fiber or the production of fiber, following all the steps down to the production of the final products. We did this exercise. I promise. I promise. I won't go to all the steps. We did it for Morocco, for Tunisia, and also for Egypt. I just would like to draw your attention on the fact that there are in all all countries some similarity, but also huge difference in, for example, in terms of the equilibrium, the balance between the knitting component and the non-knitting component, the amount of raw material imported, the type of raw material imported, and also the actual presence within the country of the first stages of the supply chain. As you can see in these slides, most of the production takes place after spinning, and in some countries such as Tunisia, actually most of the production and also most of the waste generated comes from the manufacturing of garments. So this allows us to knowing and having surveyed in each country what we call the waste product ratio at each stage. We can calculate based on these parameters the total amount of waste generated in the country. So this is a very quick overview of the amount of waste generated, which is the potential new source for textile materials. You see for each country at the center of the slide the total amount, which is pretty large, and also you can also see what is the composition by fiber. You can see that in most countries cotton is dominant. This is not just a statistic. This tells us many things about the type of recycling supply chain, and also type of technologies that can apply to recycling. But the first and the most important information is the very basic one, and it is that very simply and very plainly that the numbers are big. So there is a huge opportunity. Of course, as we will see in a moment, not all these tons of waste can be easily recycled in other textile or fashion products. There are different quality of this waste, depending also from the fiber composition. So when designing both the pilot and the strategy for the countries, we need to take into account that we have to identify a different flow of waste, different destinations, let's say, of the recycled fiber according to the quality and the typology of the fabrics. We also made a split in terms of the process, so the stage of the supply chain that generates this waste, and you can easily see that most of the waste, especially in Tunisia and Morocco, is what we call the cutting waste. That means waste generated by garment making. Quite often, this waste is generated starting from imported fabrics that are cut and transformed in the country for re-exports. I just want to draw your attention also on the size in all of the countries of what we call the overproduction or dead stock. This more or less is what remains at the end of the process because of, let's say, defects, what we call the second quality garments, or also is the programmed overproduction to allow for more flexibility. You see that, for example, if you take Morocco and Tunisia, you see that this amount is 20% of the total amount of fiber that are available for for recycling. So it is, let's say, it is a quite interesting amount of materials. As I said, not all waste is created equal, let's say. So if you start from the total amount of waste that comes from the previous charts, this is the case for Morocco. You see 83,000 tons of waste every year. This can take different routes. I just would like to say a few words about the recyclable part that can be of high value according to the, let's say, the type of fiber, which is, for example, it's 100% cotton, 100% synthetic versus mixed fiber. This is what we call high value waste that can more easily go in textile recycling, and so can re-enter in some sort of closed loop within the sector. But there is also, as you see here, almost 40,000 tons of lower value waste. For this waste, we need to find solution of what we call industrial symbiosis. It means to find destinations for this waste that goes to different industries. And by the way, for example, if you take the case of Morocco, where there is a remarkable amount of automotive industry, for example, this could be a perfect final destination for this type of lower quality waste. Lower quality means that it cannot be translated easily in yarn, but can be very good for wadding, for example, or for non-wovens. Another step, as I said at the beginning, was to analyze the legal framework. You know very well that in every country the waste is heavily regulated for a number of good reasons. Not the case to discuss them here. One of the output of the project for Tunisia for the moment is a handbook, a manual that makes easier, at least for all the companies, to understand what to do, who are the responsible of each action. So it is a very practical manual. Or a guide, and the decision to publish, this will be published, and it is in the final, graphical design stage. The decision to make this guide came from what we got from the inception phase of it was not in our project at the beginning, but during the inception phase, it was very clear that most of the companies, including the leading one in the country, were not aware exactly of the fact that they could easily move the waste within the country to recycle it. Of course, this is quite a sensitive point. For example, in Tunisia, maybe some of you know that last year we got a huge scandal of illegal imports of waste. So it's something that's require a lot of care from local institutions and cannot be left totally free to the market, let's say. We identified in all of the three countries what are the potential and for the development of a better recycling value chain. In particular, we highlight a couple of strengths, assets we can leverage on, and weaknesses, so that these are the blocking points, that those that's in our final suggestions and consideration, and the final report we will give some potential way out from these weaknesses. Well, among the strengths is that in all of the three countries, especially in Tunisia, Morocco, let's say, about Egypt, we are still in the making, as I said. There is the active, let's say, presence of very large producer of clothing, and so large means that's the collection of waste can have a logistical lower logistical cost because the amounts are quite large and located in specific places. And in terms of weaknesses, the main point is that currently there is no actual quality protocols within the company for the segregation, sorting of the material. Another strength in waste
Marco,
management.
sorry to interrupt you. You have 2 more minutes.
Okay, yes, I see. Thank you. Almost done. I just would like to mention that at least for Tunisia and Morocco, we have a great assets that not only there are big companies, big garment makers that concentrate most of the waste, but these companies are themselves concentrated in few regions. So again, from a logistical point of view, from your logistics point of view, this is quite interesting. Let me just mention another important strength, that while there is no widespread, let's say, awareness and experience in recycling, nonetheless, there are in both Tunisia and Morocco very interesting cases of good practices already active in the country, so that can provide very easily a business case for the project. For example, one of these is, I think, what will be the part of the speech by Elena from Nudie Jeans. Last points, we also tried to match the needs of each country according to the mapping with the different technologies that are available today for recycling. And of course, the selection of the technology depends on the type of waste and also the type of end use. We prepared and we are disseminating a number of bulk of information about this. We have identified 3 main technological domains: the chemical recycling, mechanical recycling, and downcycling. For Tunisia and Morocco, we are proposing for the moment to concentrate on mechanical recycling and downcycling, because for large investment in chemical recycling, maybe the volumes are not such a big point. Well, this is the last one. We see for the recycling technologies huge changes that are undergoing in terms of mechanical recycling. There are new machines, a new generation of machines that makes things not different from the past. I mean, these are incremental innovations. They are not disruptive. On the other hand, in the chemical recycling, we are currently now in these years in front of a revolution that is making huge changes. This is why we think that the pilots can have an important role and play an interesting role in improving the landscape in the countries. And we have identified these 4 scenarios, and out of them, some of the pilots are already designed, at least following these one or the other of these 4 scenarios. And as you have seen in the first slide, these pilots will start to be deployed by the end of this year, and they will have the most of their activity in the next year. So we are in front of some interesting change that we can try to trigger in the countries. Well, that's all from my side. And please, Roberta, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Marco. I think it was quite useful to get your expert views and highlight of the conclusions from the waste mapping exercise, and that also to give a kind of an indication of different business opportunities for circularity that currently fits the three countries. So now, let me introduce Nudie Jeans. That is a Swedish brand that is specialized in denim products with a very strong vision oriented towards sustainability, from the use of organic cotton to implementation of different circular business model for repair, reuse, and recycling. And, you know, as was mentioned already earlier in this panel, UNIDO and Nudie Jeans have collaborated for the realization of a first pilot in Tunisia to recycle second quality stocks and to convert them into new jeans with the fully localized fashion to fashion circular business model. So, Elina, thank you for being with us. And together with you, we have also Mr. Sadok Zlitini, that is the management system manager of Denim Authority, your major supplier of denim products in Tunisia. And let me just ask you how you see this collaboration with UNIDO has brought some insights. So what are the conclusions from the pilots, and how do you see the way forward for your brand to continue and to scale up this work?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much. I actually have a few slides that I can share with you that sort of summarize this, if that is all right. So I will just share my screen. So first of all, thank you so much for having us on today to be able to share our insights and the values around this project. It has been a very valuable project for us, and I will just quickly go through a few details. First of all, as Roberta mentioned, we are a Swedish denim brand. We've had a very long-term focus on sustainability from the very beginning of when we started in the beginning of 2001. Two of our largest milestones, I would say, is the first one in 2012 when we released our first 100% organic cotton denim collection, and we've only worked with organic cotton in all of our denim since then. Since 2017, we have worked with only organic cotton in all of our cotton products. We think it's also very important to work with good suppliers. So that's also why we are working together with Denim Authority, that we will hear from soon. We're working with a very transparent supply chain because we think it's important to know exactly where our products are made, but also to be transparent about this information towards our customers. We think it's important to have a close collaboration with our suppliers and to focus on these long-term relationships where we actually have the possibility of developing together and finding these kind of possibilities that this work have been a proof of, I would say. And as a part of the work to try to be more conscious about our resource use, we have tried to find a solution for the many second quality garments that we've had at Denim Authority. We've had this large stock that has grown over the years because we wanted to save them, to use them for a better purpose than only to throw them away and treat them as waste, or to sell them sort of outside of our control. So we have saved them in the stock at Denim Authority in the hope of finding a smart resource use solution. And we discussed this with Denim Authority, and we got the opportunity to actually try out to recycle the seconds together with a new Tunisian fabric supplier for us, and to be able to have a local flow where we could actually use that fabric made by the Tunisian fabric supplier back to Denim Authority again. And at the same time, when we were exploring these opportunities, we were also in contact with UNIDO. about their about their mapping, the pilot map for mapping the different textile flows in Tunisia. So this really added an extra value to the work than the pilot that we did ourselves, to have the UNIDO's sort of third party perspective on this work, and to also have their knowledge and perspectives on what we can do to improve this work moving forward. And the result of the project has been very, very good. We are super happy with the result, both of the actual outcomes, the practical outcomes of the fabrics, but also the collaborations that we have had with UNIDO during this time. We will soon start to make a third production of 20,000 meters of the same fabric quality. So I think that really shows that this has been valuable work that we have done. We are also in discussion about making a new black fabric quality, because we still have a lot of black second quality jeans that we also want to find a usage for. We're also in discussion with CTEX or Swift about making another indigo colored fabric quality with a slightly different look than the first one, to be able to broaden the possibilities of using it for many different styles. So we've had products made in this quality already in the fall 21 collection, but we've also planned to include it in all of the collections that we have been working with so far moving forward. And we have around 2 to 5 denim styles per collection made in this fabric. And one of the findings from the study was that it would be even more valuable and reduce even less waste if we were also going to include the cutting waste into the same setup. So we're also, or we will explore these possibilities moving forward as well. And looking at challenges and opportunities, we see that the challenges that we stand in front of is, of course, to reduce the creation of seconds in the first place. This is not something that we want to create, but we also probably will continue to create it in some part, as we have quite a high quality demand on the production. We also need to think about how we can reduce waste throughout the process, because as mentioned, one of the findings were that there creates a lot of waste during the process of the recycling as well. So we need to think about how we can decrease this. We also need to find a solution for how to recycle the trims, so all of the metal buttons and zippers. And of course, also need to think about, is this actually the best way of using the seconds from a waste hierarchy, or can they be reused in another way instead of recycled? So there are a lot of things that we need to continue to think about moving forward, but we also see that there are great opportunities with this work. We see a reduced environmental footprint by using recycled cotton. It's also interesting to think about the trend we see right now with the increased price of the organic cotton, as we see an increased global demand for organic cotton. Will this actually make it even more interesting to use the resource that we have already used and reuse that into the same processes again? Of course, it's also really interesting to look more into the possibilities of using cutting waste in the same setup, but also to increase the share of recycled fibers in the fabrics. And just to have a short conclusion, we think it has been very valuable to work with UNIDO on this product. It has given us a lot of insights that we will bring with us moving forward, but it has also validated the importance of this work that we are doing. So we are happy with the outcome, both with the collaboration as mentioned with UNIDO, but also the actual fabric that we created from recycling the second quality garments. And I think it's interesting to see that this is not a project with the aim of saving costs. It is a project with an aim of finding a smart purpose for the second quality garments that will, I believe, always be a side effect of a production where we have very high quality standards. And we are super happy to be able to do this in a local setup where we can be inside of Tunisia and have that closed loop happening within the country. So we are very happy about the project, and thank you, UNIDO, for wanting to work with us. It has been a great opportunity for us.
Thank you very much, Lina, for your insights. And it was really a great pleasure also for UNIDO to collaborate with Nudie Jeans on this amazing pilot that, as you mentioned, has a unicity. It's really a completely total localized value chain where the wastes are not traveling far away for being transformed into recycled fibers. And I think, we can also hear from Denim Authority, what has been their experience with the pilot. So, Mr. Zitlini, would you like to give us some words about your experience working with us?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank all those who contributed to the success of this pilot action. UNIDO, Nudie Jeans, CTEX. I will share my presentation. So let me introduce myself and my company. I'm Sadaf Zgitni, the management system manager of Denim Authority, which is a denim producer that offers eco-friendly product in respect of human rights. We ensure sorting waste and develop process that have less negative impact by replacing hazardous chemical with environmentally friendly product. We have close support to subcontractor to improve their social and environmental performance in compliance with customer requirements. We are also committed to reduce energy, water, and chemical consumption. And now we will focus on carbon footprint by planning project implementation to reduce it. For the project, the purpose was the large stock of second choice product from different customers in our warehouse, kept because some customer not buy them, but also some of them buy. However, the stock remains large because there are not enough space to store new fabric and finished goods. And there was no alternative to get rid of it in order to free up space. So we had to find a smart solution with the UNIDO and Nudie Jeans, also CTEX, to get them out of our storage. The project has been a success. We carried out 2 operations of 3,000 kilograms of second choice from our side. We are going to start recycling second choice product with another customer also. With one, we did a waste fabric recycling operation. And we have set up internal procedure and the necessary means for a sustainable project. We will, for example, buy press a ball. We have also applied for the GRS certification, which will offer us opportunities in the future. The challenges now are that we need to make also solution about recycling the cutting waste fabric. We remain limited regarding the quality of second choice product to recycle. So a solution must be found for the rest of the composition or color, other qualities. The products have been cut, and we have kept the upper part of the garment that contain the trims. So we have preparation work and storage. We have also the problem obtaining custom authorization because our activity is not supposed to trade waste. So the project does not really present any direct financial gain. It represents a good opportunity for us, producer and brand Nudie Jeans, to meet customer expectations. Everyone should contribute to starting with government, in particular our one, which have to facilitate custom procedure. And we could offer and invite our other customers to take part in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sadok. It was really good to hear also from your perspective the results of this pilot. And I'm extremely glad to hear that you have taken the advantage of the capacity that was built to this project in terms also of learnings and trainings on how to segregate, how to prepare the waste, the material for being processed, has basically led you to expand your business in this direction and replicate this experience with other customers. So I think that's a great news. Let me now bridge the next intervention by spending a few words on the second component of the SwitchMed project that is basically related to safer chemicals protocol, and just to illustrate how this dimension of chemicals is relevant also for circularity and how these two components are actually synergizing for better results and stronger demonstration purposes. So as you well know, the chemical used in the textile sector are enormous. Some studies say there are more than 8,000 chemicals that are used in different stages of the value chain. And at the same time, it's also, a textile industry is one of the largest contributors from the manufacturing sector for consumption of water. So we obviously can see a big challenge there, when the sector already used large amount of chemicals. Some of them are hazardous chemicals, and those chemicals easily, enter into the wastewater. And the more hazardous chemical we have, the more the wastewater will be polluted, and it will be more difficult and more costly to reuse it, to clean it, and to recycle it within the process, which is one of the practices the sector is now implementing in order to become more water efficient. So in addition to this aspect, some of the chemicals used in the textile finishings are problematic when doing a chemical recycling, using chemical recycling technologies. So there are some chemicals that cannot be used in this if the final destination of the waste is chemical recycling. So this is also another aspect which is very critical related to chemicals and circularity. But finally, I would like to also highlight that many chemicals, many hazardous chemicals, they have carcinogenic effects, and they may still be within the garments. So when we buy them, they come into physical contact with us the moment they arrive in our wardrobe. So those compounds have really, some of those compounds have been linked through different scientific study to a lot of adverse conditions or effects for the humans. And even though they get washed through consumer washing, they will get washed out into the water, then another problem arises. We have those chemicals polluting the aquifer, the environmental condition of water, and finally they can also enter into the food chain through the water system. So we have plenty of good reasons to try to get rid of hazardous chemicals out of the value chain if we want to really speak of circularity. I mean, it's really a critical issue. So what is the good news? You know, the good news is that we have a coalition of brands and chemical industry that have been working together, establishing the ZDHC Foundation, the Zero Discharge Hazardous Chemical, that actually has a very ambitious target to implement a roadmap to zero discharge of hazardous chemical in the finishing sector. So let me now introduce Mariella Noto, that is a Senior Implementation Manager at ZDHC Implementation Hub, and ask her, you know, how, you know, the ZDHC in particular works with different actors along the supply chain to implement the zero chemical discharge, and how the partnership with UNIDO within the scope of SwitchMed has contributed to the strategic goals of the foundation.
Thank you, Roberta, for the introduction. And I hope everybody can hear me correctly. I will also share my screen because, of course, I also prepared a little presentation to guide the story about ZDHC. We're very happy to do this collaboration together with UNIDO and several of the brands. And we are indeed a broad coalition of stakeholders that work together on driving implementation on sustainable chemical management and trying to eliminate hazardous chemicals from the manufacturing supply chain. Now, some slides I will go through a little bit faster because I'm also aware of the time. The ZDHC Foundation oversees implementation of a program, and that program is trying to eliminate hazardous chemicals from the supply chain. Within the program, we work together with a lot of different stakeholders. And those stakeholders I will show shortly. And one of those stakeholders is also in the UNIDO or in the SwitchMed project. Our main mission is to try to eliminate hazardous chemicals from the manufacturing processes that are being used deliberately, intentionally in the production process, as those are the ones that we can directly control. So we try to implement safer, sustainable chemical management across the value chain, with that eliminating the hazardous chemicals that are that should not be discharged from the value chains within the textile industry. How did we start? I will go through this a bit short. So in 2011, Greenpeace started their detox campaign towards several brands within the textile industry, because during sampling of wastewater, as well as testing final products, they found chemicals in the products and in the wastewater that were actually hazardous to the environment, as well as to people's health. They found 11 priority chemicals that were extremely hazardous. And they said, okay, these brands and this industry needs to make a change. Several brands at that time committed to detoxing, to call it detoxing, and said, okay, we will start to work on this. In the first half of 2012, 6 of those brands formed the ZDHC initiative. And these 6 brands started to work together to do research and to find ways to identify how you can stop discharging these 11 priority chemicals in the textile industry. And of course, it grew from there. So more and more brands joined the initiative. And by now, in 2021, we are more than 160 brands and other stakeholders within the initiative working together. We developed into a foundation in 2015, and we started to publish and create tools and guidelines for the industry that can be implemented on the ground with the facilities and with other different stakeholders to make sure that the hazardous chemicals are going to be discharged stop being discharged into the environment. The goal was to do all this within 2020. So the first program started with a zero discharge by 2020. We've came a long way. There's a lot of things that already have been changed in the value chain, but there's also still a lot of work to do, and we completely recognize that. So that's why we said, okay, we go from a finite goal to an infinite goal. We need to keep on doing this work together with the industry and implement more tools and guidelines and solutions to make it easier for the supply chain to eliminate hazardous chemicals from their manufacturing process. Who do we work with within the whole process and in our organization? It's a lot of different stakeholders, as you can see, and I'm going to show the next slide to see who all these stakeholders are. We work with a wide range of brands and retailers, as well as one of the very important components, the chemical industry, who's creating these chemical formulations that are being used in the chemical industry. Of course, the supply chain, solution providers that are helping us with implementing our tools and our trainings, and associate organizations. And next to that as well, global stakeholder organizations such as UNIDO, Solidaridad IDH, where we work together on implementation projects on the ground to improve the processes within their projects. Why do we want to collaborate with an organization such as UNIDO? Well, for one, we're being able to connect to partners in the global markets. For us to scale the implementation of safer chemistry within supply chains on the ground, within the industry, we need connecting partners to create projects where we can use our tools and guidelines on the ground to work on continuous improvements in factories. So we can create awareness within these facilities as well as within the other stakeholder organizations that are in the project. We can provide our expertise, and we can also train and help to gain capacity in these regions that we are not always able to connect with within our own network. And that's something that we did as well within this SwitchMed project by going to a region that we were not yet actively working in, but being able to connect with Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, local industry partners, and also potential partners that can take the work that we are already doing into their own region and scale it more. Why do we need to manage those chemicals on the ground? Well, for one, because we need to understand the hazards that are associated with it. And Roberta already explained that as well during her talk. There is already a lot of hazards associated with the chemicals that we use in our manufacturing process, but we need to identify the ones being used in the process and link them to the hazards that are there, and then see how we can make sure that they are not used intentionally anymore within the manufacturing process. That is because we want to have a greater responsibility towards the health and the welfare of the existing and future generations. I mean, there's a lot of talks currently also around, of course, our planet, and part of that is as well being able to work towards less chemical discharge within the environment and in the water, and being able to use and reuse water as well for the likes of not draining out the water resources that we have. And next to that, one of the things that Roberta also mentioned, there is of course a concern from consumers and buyers, because in the products that we buy, there might still be residues that are not healthy for us as individuals, or will be washed away in the wastewater by washing at home, for example. So what do we do and also use within our training sessions? And some things will also be linked to the implementation that Alberto will after me talk about. We look at the input chemistry, so which chemicals are going into the factory, and how can we train the suppliers on the ground on how to list their input chemistry and see if they are, map them, if they are hazardous or not. And how to actually exchange them with available alternatives that are less hazardous. We look at the process side. How can these suppliers on the ground actually change their processing in a way that they deal more safely with these chemicals, not only in the manufacturing process, but also the workers that are working with these chemicals, because of course there is an impact there as well. And we look at the output side. So how can we have cleaner output of the water coming out of the facilities? We have created 3 platforms that are used also within this project with UNIDO to map all these elements. It's a holistic approach. We have a gateway where the chemicals are being mapped to see if they're hazardous or not within the factory. And there's a search tool there to look for safer alternatives that are already available in the market. We have an academy that is supporting the training and capacity building of the supply chain and the employees on the ground. And we have a supplier platform that enables suppliers to map and assess their current chemical management work in their facility, look at the gaps that they still have, and then be trained and find guidance to bridge those gaps and to improve themselves for in the future. And these tools are all 3 actively going to be used, and part of it is already used, the Gateway and the Academy, within the project with UNIDO as well. And with that, we can also report and have a look at the impact that we are having with training and capacity building in the project itself while we are doing this. Shortly showing this slide, the input, process, and output side also, of course, reflects to certain parts of the industry. So the input side is very much on the procurement of the chemicals that you're using within your facility, and is at the start point of the production process, where you can check your chemicals that you're using. The processing is more in during the manufacturing process itself, at the facility level, the usage, the storage, and the handling of the chemicals in the manufacturing. And of course, the output is all related to the effluent treatment, the water coming out of the facility, potentially later on as well, the air emissions, and how that can be improved. It also, of course, links to the RSL, the end product testing. But what we always say at ZDHC is if hazardous chemistry does not come into the facility, so if the procurement is correct, then the end product will in the end also be cleaner. So therefore, we created a circle that can be used to clean up the manufacturing process. In this case, what the brands are doing within this UNIDO project as well is the suppliers use the gateway to search for safer chemistry and to map their own hazardous chemicals, which hopefully are not to that extent in their facility, find the alternatives, improve their processing on the ground with the guidance of consultants, map the gaps that they have and the things that they need to improve, get trained on that via the ZDHC Academy, and in the end are able to report on wastewater testing in the final stage to see if these improvements indeed have taken place. So it's a whole circle of improvements, which has been done via capacity building and implementation together. One of the last slides, what did we do? Because I'm conscious of time. We did, for the capacity building already, we did we engaged with all 3 countries up till now. We trained on 3 different training topics, chemical management and wastewater management. We did over 18 training sessions already, and I found that when I looked that up again, quite impressive that we were able to do that in a relatively short amount of time. So applause to the trainers who did that. And we did training with over more than 100 participants of 45 companies. So it was quite an impactful capacity building. And from there, we will also be doing an impact study that has been set up with one of my colleagues, Isa van der Heuvel, on how this training actually helps the implementation that's being done after the capacity building on the ground. So what will be the next step? Implementation. So therefore, I will also give the floor back to Roberta and in the end, Alberto. The next steps of implementation is looking at the gaps that a facility might have still in their chemical management systems and see how we can bridge those gaps with guidance and with peer learning, and a pathway to implementation for these suppliers. And one of the tools that they in the end will also potentially use for that is our supplier platform, which is new and which will be implemented during the year for suppliers to improve their work on chemical management on the ground.
Thank you, Mariella. Thank you very much for the insights about the holistic approach of ZDHC for the elimination of hazardous chemical. And let me now introduce Alberto Saccavini, technical expert at Blue Mine, and that is currently supporting UNIDO in the implementation of pilots project with the textile finishing industry for the implementation of the ZGHT guidelines and elimination of hazardous chemicals. So, Alberto, can you give us, I kindly ask you to stay within the 5 to 10 minutes maximum, and just to give us some highlights of the pilots and how, you know, this work directly with the local supplier is progressing and bringing some interesting results.
Thank you very much, Roberta, and thank you, Mariella, for sharing the interesting insight on what ZDH is doing. Let me just bring up a couple of slides, nothing major, just to keep in track with my presentation. So following the training sessions that were mentioned by Mariella, that involved many companies in the three countries mentioned, that are Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia, UNIDO has decided that was important to bring this to the ground, to bring this to the companies, and to understand let me say how difficult or how easy for better saying it would have been to implement in the ground, in the company, what was given as a training to the company themselves. So the objective of the pilots, it is actually to bring to the ground this chemical management and wastewater management sustainable way of looking at. So the idea is to upgrade the capacities of the textile sector in these countries with, on one hand, the training sessions and an ad hoc technical assistance. And both of these parts are actually delivered by a technical provider that is UL, that has their offices in the Northern Africa, and with which we are working close with the companies almost in a day-by-day work to be able to develop their own roadmap. So understanding somehow, looking at how the situation it is, so taking a picture of how the situation is and deciding where they want to arrive. Of course, it is the compliance to the ZDHC guidelines, but at the end of the day, also understanding how long they might need to be able to reach this result. So beforehand, it was necessary to do a selection process because, of course, it was not possible to do a pilot with all the companies that participated in the training. So the idea was to pick and choose some of the companies that would best represent, especially the local environment. That means in all the countries, there is an extensive presence of denim production, as we have heard already during the earlier presentations. But not only, there are also many other companies that they are not at all involved in denim. So there was the need of balancing these different kind of industries somehow, even though we are always in the scope of the textile industries, but with many for very different needs, very separate between each other. Then we had, of course, the interests of the brands, that they are partners of UNIDO in SwitchMed, and so we tried to understand through a survey the involvement of the staff in these companies, in the companies that could participate in the pilots, and also the commitment of the company itself. So which steps they have already taken in this direction, if they are already working in this direction or not. Then eventually we started the pilots after the selection with the 2 companies per each country. So we can officially say that the pilots have started also in the 3rd country, because the day before yesterday we had inception meetings with the companies that have accepted to participate in these pilots. The idea is to follow a little bit what Mariella explained to us. So taking a picture of the situation, starting from the chemical inventory that might already exist, and their purchase policy, the internal purchase policy of the company. Here it's very interesting because the range of the companies is very wide, in the sense that there are some companies that they are quite advanced already in this, that they have already quite an important chemical inventory. They have already written purchase policies accepted by their head of departments and by the board of directors and so on. But there are other companies that their purchasing policy was when a chemical is finished, we buy a new one, as simple as that. So it was very interesting and challenging, but successful for the companies to understand how to adapt their existing purchasing policy to fit into the requirements of understanding already at the purchase level what is the sustainability of a specific chemical product. After this, the chemical inventory was designed together with the companies, together with a risk assessment criteria for each individual chemical. And based on this, the companies will design their own roadmap for substitutions. At the end of the pilots, of course, there will be also a training on wastewater policy and management, with the aim of giving the tools to the different companies to be able to test their own wastewater, to understand how the changes that they have made to the purchasing policy, to the chemical inventory, and thanks to the substitutions that they have done of the different chemicals, which are the improvements that they have had as a result in their wastewater testing. So this is a very quick overview of how the business case for chemical management and wastewater management will be implemented, and where we are already. So because in the first countries we are already in the step of arriving to design the roadmap for substitution, and so we can say that the response of the companies and on the ground is very good, it's very interesting, and is very committed. Committed not only because there is a pressure from the brands, but because for them it is becoming something that is necessary for themselves, for their company, but also for their country and for the environment as a whole. So this is how the situation is at the moment.
Thank you very much, Alberto, and I'm really glad to hear that your perception is that the response of the company is not only driven by the brands, by their customers' requirements, but it's rather driven by sort of taking responsibility of themselves as suppliers, also towards environmental issues. Now, Let's now move to the final part of the session today, where we have representatives from the textile and apparel federation of the 3 countries that are participating in our project. And let me start by giving the floor to Ms. Fatima Zora Alaoui, General Manager of the Textile and Apparel Association of the Industries in Morocco. And so good morning, Fatima, and thank you for being with us. And let me ask you, how do you see the sustainability, the growing, you know, Alberto has mentioned, yes, there is a growing sustainability drive of the local suppliers. So how is this sustainability trend impacting the value chain in Morocco, and what are the short-term and long-term effects?
Good morning, Roberta. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my presentation as well. I have a quick presentation. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to start with just a quick reminder that it is true that we produce a lot of waste, and we produce about 20% of global wastewater and 10% of global carbon emissions, which is, according to the UNEP report, more than all international flights and maritime shipping. So basically, every step we take to make a garment carries a significant environmental burden. Over the past year and a half, the COVID-19 crisis has caused a global, at the same time, health and economic crisis. And we've witnessed major changes in international trade and the way buyers and consumers have reacted to buying clothes and apparel. So we see a rising concern for a more sustainable, more environmental protective production among consumers. But we all know also that soon the European carbon tax will be implemented. So what this means is that the current textile industry business model that we've been using all for the past decades will have to change and to adapt, probably relocating production closer to home, closer to markets and closer to consumers. What we also expect is that investors will be looking for new kind of partnerships, for closer also to home, for production that is both flexible and also more sustainable. And in this respect, Morocco provides a competitive and efficient platform for both production and investment. Given the importance of sustainability over the past few months or few years, we've witnessed an impact already over the last few months on this growing trend on the Moroccan value chain. And the first indicator that we see of these changes is the increase in demand for the Moroccan apparel production, basically for 2 main reasons. The first one is that it's closer to home for most European brands and retailers, but also because it provides them with more flexibility in terms of quantities and lead time, which allows them to better manage their inventories. If we take all these changes into account, we realize that we also, as a Moroccan production base, we need to adapt our production processes quickly to include more sustainable practices into that. And as the representative of the Moroccan textile and garment industry, our association took a first step, which was to actually come up with a new vision for the Moroccan production capacities and the Moroccan textile industry that we called Dayem Morocco. And I have a short video that I'm going to share with you that explains quickly what is this new vision. So now that we've all agreed here in Morocco on this vision, the next question is how do we implement it and what is going to be the effect of this new vision on the Moroccan textile industry? Well, the first step will be to set up what we call eco parks. These are new industrial zones, basically, that include all the major sustainable practices that will allow us to become more sustainable in our production. We're talking about renewable energy, and you know that Morocco at the continental level is a pioneer in terms of renewable energy, being it solar or wind energy at the same time. Also taking into account and building on all the findings of the SwitchMed study about textile waste, we intend to include in this eco parks recycling facilities for both the textile cutting wastes that we produce, but also, and like it was mentioned earlier, the second quality products that we have in our factories, and that basically nobody knows what to do with it. So these recycling facilities will allow us to actually implement all the findings of the study that was conducted on how to better valorize those textile wastes. And also, last but not least, water treatment and recycling facilities in order to clean the water from the chemicals that are used in the dyeing and the washing facilities. And also, one of the impacts that we are likely to see in the Moroccan textile industry is an increased investment in raw materials. Like it was mentioned also earlier, it was one of the findings of the study. We rely a lot on imported raw materials. This is not very sustainable, and this also increases the footprint, the carbon footprint of the Moroccan production. So one of the projects that we're working on is increasing investment in the upstream of the value chain to produce more raw materials here in Morocco in order to decrease the carbon footprint from imports. Another component that will be implemented is the investment in human resources training in everything that has to do with sustainability and sustainable production. And finally, how to work, and we will work with our suppliers in their compliance, basically, with the international certifications and on sustainable standards in order to make them more compliant with what is required today, both by the buyers, but also by the consumers all over the world, be it international or local consumers.
Thank you very much, Fatima, and much appreciated to hear about the new vision of the the textile and apparel sector in Morocco, and going also in the direction of more localized value chain for reducing, the environmental impact, and particularly the carbon footprint. And of course, the region is very important. It's increasingly important for the brands compared to the past, and that's part because of the COVID, but also part of different business, decision and criteria of many brands. So let's now move to Mr. Bouajila, the director of a leading knitwear manufacturer in Tunisia, Tunicotex, and that is specialized in the production of fully fashion sweaters. And he is also a member of the executive board of the Textile and Apparel Federation of the Tunisian industry. So, good morning, Mr. Bouajila. It's a pleasure to have you here at this panel, and let me ask you, what is your vision, both from the point of view of an entrepreneur and also from the Federation of the textile industries in Tunisia, regarding opportunities to accelerate the adoption of safer chemicals in the production system in Tunisia, and how this really is important for the future of the sector in order to be able to retain clients and customers in the future.
Thank you, Roberta. Good morning to all of you. I'm happy to participate, to be part of this webinar. And I thank UNIDO and SwitchMed project for this initiative, who is promoting all our sustainable action. I think that all the specialists and the panelists have already said the essential things about chemicals, textile sustainability, and preserving our planet and environment. I'm with you in order to share our testimony and experience of what we are doing and developing in terms of chemical management, reduction of chemicals, and optimization of the chemicals used. All of us know very well that today textile and apparel industry has to adopt a new approach, helping environment, helping planet, and the preservation of natural resources. Our responsibility is also very important in the health protection of the final consumers. In Tunisia, let's say that the major part of the textile companies are today adopting really new sustainable approach and the responsible roadmap for chemical management, for wastewater management and recycling. I'm happy to see that each year we have more factories implementing the installation of recycling waters. This is a very important point and strong point for the local textile industry. Also, the major part of our factories, I mean textile, finishing, washing, etc., are strong in terms of less water and less chemicals and safer chemicals technology. Also, we have since a couple of years many factories who are implementing solar energy, so renewable energy. and all of us in the federation, we are pushing in this way. We think that this is the right way, this is a good way to make a contribution, a strong contribution for for more sustainable and more safe world and product. Let me share my small presentation, nothing special, as all the colleagues explained very well, a lot of principle approach that we share completely here with them and with you. How can textile and apparel producer adopt safer chemicals and reduce chemical use? I think that the principle, every one of us know what we have to do and how in textile industry, in a textile factory, we can reduce the use of chemicals, and when we use them, we have to have the safe ones. First of all, we have to check the compliance of the chemicals with the manufacturing restricted substances list and other standards like GOTS, zero discharge hazardous chemicals, Eco Passport, etc. The implementation of new and innovative processes allowing the use of less chemicals and a big water saving. For this point, I have to speak about an example we have here in Tunicotex. 2 years ago, we collaborated with an Italian partner. So it is not a secret because we can share this with all our colleagues. The partner is Yafil in Italy. Yafil is a spinning mill, and in the spinning mill, they have a department of research development working on the sustainable approach and the less chemicals approach. So with the Yafil, we use this small washing ball, and we experimented with them the use in the bulk production. After 2.5 years collaboration, we have Tunicotex with 90% of chemicals reduction. We have 90% of our washing machines working without chemicals. This technology, this technique allowed us to reduce the water consumption with around 66%. And then we launched the project of recycling water that will be installed within 1 month, still in collaboration with Yafil and with the biologic system. So this is really a strong example. And now a partner like VF Group and like Hugo Boss are sharing with us this practice, this example, and we are really famous in the brand management of a lot of customers and of brands, thanks to this technique. We are still working to develop it more and more. And now this technique is also, from this technique, we invented the green balls, who are balls for the domestic use and allowing to the final customers to avoid the use of detergent and chemicals to wash the garment at home. This is a practical and concrete example for reducing chemicals. Also, I believe, and we believe in the federation, that the producer must focus mainly on ecological processes in dyeing and other treatments like natural, vegetable, mineral colorant, the adoption of alternatives to the chemicals across the washing and dyeing process, as I was explaining about green and washing balls. Producers should use the monitoring and management tools for safer chemicals like green screen, InCheck, ZDHC, Blue Sign, Eco Passport, etc. Those tools allow to the sustainability team in the factories to have better monitoring, to have a decision tool, to have better analyze, and to manage really with an optimized way the chemicals and the use of chemicals in the factories. At the end, how the use of good monitoring of chemicals allow us to retain customers. I think that this is not a secret, it is simple. When we are responsible, when we have commitment with our society, with our customers, with our land, with our planet, when we achieve a joint responsibility, when we comply with the legal regulation, when we enhance chemical management, we ensure sustainable supply chain. These are strong arguments for the companies and the manufacturing textile industrial to have the confidence of their customer, of the brands, and they are nominated as let's say example of sustainability, of responsibility, of reduction of the chemicals impact on environment and health, which is one of the key elements for responsible brands. The safe products and the environmental friendly processes meet legal and voluntary market requirements. So all of these points are very important, and let me say that they are necessary today in the world we are living, in order to face the future and to face big challenges and to contribute in a better world. Thank you very much for letting me make this presentation, and I wish you a very nice day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bojila. It was really inspiring to see how your company, is responding to the challenges of chemicals and the innovation that just confirm, that there is in fact a lot of drive from the local business sector, more than what we would expect. So the local companies are very active in responding to those challenges. Let me move to the final panelist today, Mr. Ani Salam, the CEO of Salam Tex, that is one of the Egyptian leading manufacturer of specialty lace and warp knitted fabrics for international markets. They have a full vertical line from the design to knitting, dyeing, and finishing of products, but he is also a member of the Egyptian Textile and Home Textile Export Council. So good morning, Mr. Ani Salam. It's a pleasure to host you at the panel. We are running a little bit out of time, but we started late, so you still have your 10 minutes to, give us your perspective, both as an entrepreneur and also as a representative of the Textile Federation, Textile Export Council, regarding the major opportunities and challenges for particularly exporting companies, but also non-exporting. If you could differentiate, what are the different opportunities and challenges when it comes to sustainability and produce more sustainably in Egypt? So thank you. I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Roberta. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'm very happy to be in this webinar, although I was left to the end, so I'm squeezed with time, and I don't have much to say. Most of what should have been said is already said, but let me try my best to contribute. So, with 187 countries which has ratified the Paris Climate, near future demand will be more eager for sustainable products. Also, as Marco said, increased number of brands adapting sustainable manufacturing is also a big plus. I don't want to name companies, but all of the major companies, H&M, M&S, Puma, Adidas, nearly everyone is already in the game. What's also very important in opportunities is creating new business models. This week, I was approached by a local Egyptian company which was asking for our seconds just to create a collection for sustainable fabrics with a new brand. This was, I think it's very new for a developing country to have already brands which are going in this direction. But also as different models, we have co-sharing, rental, reuse of apparel, and basically going into more durable products than fashionable products is also an opportunity for companies doing that. Also, we feel that customers in general are ready and willing to pay a little bit more for having sustainable products lately, at least. Increased automation and efficiency reduces cost and creates less margins for errors. As for challenges, we still have some lack of information regarding recycling and reusable, although, well, organizations are doing their best, but still for most companies, it's still a puzzle how to start and how to go for it. Mainly what we're facing maybe, and I'm very glad to hear for Morocco that they are really have a policy, a governmental policy towards sustainability. Well, but I believe that we still have modest government actions in general, governmental actions in terms of encouraging sustainable production and also penalizing. We don't feel that there's enough governmental crackdown on companies which are not complying with this. What is also maybe felt globally, maybe we have less challenges when it comes to commodities and traditional textiles, but when it goes to functionalities and it goes to technical textiles, which is also becoming more and more a big part of our industry, reaching zero discharge and hazardous chemicals will be a real challenge when it comes to protective textiles that we have to reach specific specs. That is a challenge. We are facing it ourselves in some fields, and this puzzle is very close to be, I wouldn't say impossible to achieve, but very difficult to achieve. Also, for most local companies, we feel that high cost of obtaining traceability certificates, I'm talking here GRS, GOATS, making the Higg Index, are also refraining a lot of small-sized companies into going in this direction. Financing modern machinery also is is quite a challenge. Modern machineries which are consuming less energy, less water, and so on. And for sure, lean manufacturing goes directly hand in hand with sustainability. Higher efficiency for sure means less impact. So the last challenge is, shall we be able to get financial gain out of sustainability? Because this is the main drive for any company to change their behavior. So I guess that's all I can add to what was said. And thank you very much. And please, Roberta, I'm giving you the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salam. It was really a good way to conclude our session, to hear from you, and especially to understand more the perspective of Egypt, and also, you know, have some insights about the obstacles. So what are the main challenges the sector will face in order to become more, you know, aligned to the challenges of the sustainability and the climate change in your country. So let me now make some closing remarks, where I would like just to highlight some of the takeaways from the session and share it with all of you. So we have had a very interesting panel from my perspective, where we have heard different actors along the value chain, you know, local garment producers, international brands, the ZGC Foundation, the Textile Federation from the countries, and also expert point of view was also discussed regarding both circularity and waste recycling, but also chemical management. So these two elements are crucial, and they go hand in hand for the future sustainability and circularity of the textile sector. So in a way, the initiative of UNIDO is very well, let's say, conceived to try to synergize about these two different aspects and demonstrate how it's possible and under which condition it's possible to, you know, roll out the different protocols of sustainability in the countries. Now, we have heard the perspective of different stakeholders, but I mean, there are essentially, for me, two main elements that come and repeat themselves across, you know, the different interventions. And one of them is that the importance of localizing, you know, the business model for sustainability. And this is the experience coming out from Nudie Jeans, you know, where it was obviously clear that having the full, you know, supply chain and value chain for textile waste recycling located in Tunisia has been the key factor for demonstrating the business case. But also the vision of Morocco, you know, clearly point in the direction of getting more, you know, verticality in the value chain. So trying to have the most of the steps, you know, in the value chain in the same country, so that this could represent a factor of competitiveness, but even more important, a key factor for the sustainability of the business models. The second, you know, element that came really very clearly is that it's true. The sector, we all know, is in a turmoil. You know, since a few years already. You know, the sector is facing a lot of criticism for sustainability, and there have been since then many initiatives, response from global brands on how to address, you know, wastewater issue, chemical, you know, climate change issues. But What is probably even more relevant for us is that besides, this international dimension of the response to the challenges, there is a local response to the challenges. So we can clearly see that there is a pool of, leading companies in the local context that are driving this change. And this was clear from the intervention of Tunicotex from Tunisia, where it was obvious their role, in initiating technology transfer to become, more sustainable for water and chemical efficiency. But also the response from the UNIDO implemented ZDHC pilots demonstrated that, there is a very key responsible behavior of the companies that are really driving the implementation and taking this opportunity as a great opportunities for themselves and for the country. So I think it's then really very important to build on these two elements. So, and therefore engaging the local suppliers and establishing the linkages between the local suppliers as key driver of this change, together with the brands and the other actors. And this is what UNIDO is doing. This is where the UNIDO role is currently bridging these connections and helping to build these links, but starting really bottom up with the strong engagement of the local companies. And how it really is important, because all these changes cannot be done alone. When we talk about circularity, we really have to make sure that all the actors are on board. So it's really critical to establish the proper partnership with the private sector, with organizations like ZDHC, with the Textile Federation, and with all other experts that can contribute to this change. So I would like to close it here and thanks all the participants. Thanks to the representative from the Textile Federation, from Morocco, Tunisia, and Egypt, from ZDHC, from Nudie Jeans, from the Animal Authority, and also our experts from Blue Mine. And also many thanks to Carolina for introducing and leading this project. So thank you very much, and hope you enjoyed the session, and we'll for sure will keep you informed about the progress during our next events next year. Thank you very much.
Recording stopped.